the saga of Egil Skallagrimsson. As we leave behind the smell of salted cod and the quiet persistence of coastal life, let us drift further inland into the world of saga stories, passed down through generations, spoken aloud by firelight, and eventually written in ink upon vellum. These sagas were not simply entertainment. They were the collective memory of a people, half history and half legend, recited to preserve the lives and deeds of those who had walked before. One of the most striking among them is the saga of Egil Skallagrimsson, a man who was at once a poet, a warrior, an exile, and, in many ways, a mirror of the Viking world itself. His story, preserved in the Icelandic sagas, is not one of romantic heroism, as we might expect from Hollywood depictions of Viking warriors. Instead, it is a tale of contradictions, of a man both brutal and deeply sensitive. Capable of composing verse as easily as he could raise a sword, Egil was born in Iceland in the early 10th century, a time when settlement on the island was still fresh, and families carved out their farms from the stark volcanic land. His father Skallagrim was a powerful and often harsh man, and Egil inherited both his strength and his temper. From a very young age, his presence was unusual. Stories say that as a boy of only 3 years old, he composed his first poem, lines of verse formed not with childish simplicity, but with the weight of rhythm and structure that seemed to flow naturally from him. But alongside this gift, there was something darker. Egil was known to be fierce, prone to sudden bursts of violence even in his youth. The sagas tell of incidents that, to modern ears, sound shocking, yet in the context of his world where life was a constant negotiation of honor, survival, and family loyalty, his actions marked him not as an anomaly, but as an embodiment of the uncompromising Viking code. As he grew, so too did his reputation. He traveled beyond Iceland, to Norway, and to England, where the Norse were already entangled in wars and shifting alliances. Egil's life was filled with feuds and rivalries, many of them deeply personal. Insults were not easily forgotten in Viking society. A slight word, an unfulfilled promise, or a contested inheritance could ignite generations of hostility. And Egil, with his sharp tongue and sharper sword, seemed to attract conflict. Yet he was not only a fighter, he was also a poet of remarkable depth. His verses, preserved in Old Norse, reveal a man who could articulate grief, loss, and longing in ways that still move readers today. One of the most famous moments in his life came after the death of his beloved son. Stricken with sorrow, Egil composed a long and deeply personal poem known as the Sanatoric, or the Loss of Sons. In it, he poured out his anguish, comparing his grief to the endless crashing of the sea, and yet finding within words a way to endure. In this, Egil shows us something profound, that even in a society often remembered for its raids and violence, there was space for reflection, for artistry, and for expressions of human vulnerability. He is a reminder that history is never simple. The same man who struck fear into his enemies was also capable of crafting lines of poetry that resonate across a millennium. Of course, Egil's life was not without exile and bitterness. Toward the end, he withdrew more and more into himself,